Hey, what's going on, wrestling fans? This is Carlos,
And this is Maria.
and we are revisiting Mania, Wrestlemania 9 to be exact.
9.
Yes.
Are you ready for the 9?
Yeah, the IX for those keeping track of Roman numerals. The one that takes place in Caesar's Palace. So, do you have any tidbits before we get into it?
Yeah, so Wrestlemania 9 was the 9th annual Wrestlemania.
Yes.
As you said, the event took place at Caesar's Palace in my favorite month, which is April 4th of 1993,
Yes.
in the Las Vegas suburb of Paradise, Nevada. It was the first WrestleMania ever held outdoors. Now I have a question.
Yes.
Early on,
Yes.
so they had this in the suburb of Paradise, Nevada.
Yes.
Do you think they did this because of Hulk Hogan's song?
What's Hulk Hogan's song?
Wasn't it something in Paradise?
You mean his show Thunder in Paradise?
Yeah.
I don't think that had anything to do with that because that show, Hulk Hogan gets that show when he goes over to the other brand WCW.
Oh, okay. I was kind of curious. That hit me today. I was like, I have a question, and a comment.
Yeah.
So the tagline for this event is the world's largest toga party because it was held, of course, in Caesar's Palace, and the WWF promoted the event as the world's largest toga party,
Right.
and it was made to look like a Roman Colosseum.
Yes, and we have our first comment from our Facebook Live chat from Raymond, who says, "No, half the strip is in Paradise."
Oh, that's interesting.
Okay. Thank you very much for that comment. So go ahead and continue.
Well, I mean, it starts off pretty quick. We have Randy Macho Man.
Okay.
He looks like a Romanesque cowboy.
Yes.
And the brain is riding a camel backwards. So
Yes.
this is a real spectacle.
But did you also pay attention to who is our play-by-play announcer?
No, tell us.
Okay, well, first of all, we have the introduction of our MC, which is no longer Gorilla at this point. It is actually a new announcer who is called Jim Ross, good old JR, who will be the voice of WWE or F, now E, for many years to come. And we have another fun fact from our Facebook Live. Fun fact: the "Welcome to Las Vegas" sign is actually in Paradise, not Las Vegas.
Wow.
You figured that Vegas would get on that and start
Moving it
labeling
over?
it to say that this is Paradise on Earth or something along those lines. Unless I'm missing it. I'm not local like our friend is, so. Gorilla Monsoon actually is no longer doing the play-by-play.
Okay.
He's actually doing more of the backstage work.
Okay.
And now we have Jim Ross taking over.
Not to be confused with painter Bob Ross.
Yes, I mean, if you were able to confuse Bob Ross with Jim Ross, wow. I think you need to invest in some new glasses. All right, so then Jim Ross had been around for a long while, but he was primarily the play-by-play announcer for the wrestling group called Mid-South. And then when Mid-South was like kind of like they didn't merge, but they had like one of those understandings with another wrestling show called NWA, the National Wrestling Alliance. And he got to call more matches there. He got to call Ric Flair versus Mr. Perfect for their championship and things along the line. Eventually, Ted Turner gets him to come over to WCW, and he's doing good there as the play-by-play guy. But eventually, there's another guy who's catching a little bit more steam. His name is Eric Bischoff. And Jim Ross does not like Eric Bischoff and the way he's moving up in the ranks. So when it comes time for Eric Bischoff to get a promotion over Jim Ross to become the producer, Jim Ross is like, yeah, I got to go, buy me out of this contract.
Wow.
So Vince, I guess, decides that it's a good thing to get Jim Ross in here.
Okay.
Because of the reputation he's built with the other wrestling companies, and he gets him over. and unfortunately, that means that Gorilla has to be uh, no longer the main face of our pay-per-views, or in this particular rewatch that we're doing, the WrestleMania pay-per-views.
Right.
So
I have to say, I do miss Gorilla, but he is a welcome face. So, I was listening to his commentary and I enjoyed it. What do you
yeah,
think?
it is a little bit more technical,
Okay.
whereas Gorilla will sometimes he would make up words
Right.
and phrases along the way that he tried to coin, which isn't bad or anything like that, because if it works, it works.
Hmm.
But Jim Ross at this point in time of his commentating career with WWF, not me, he's doing a pretty good job as a play-by-play guy. Thank you.
Play-by-play guy.
Yeah.
All right. So I noticed that we don't have a song. We don't have an America the Beautiful.
Yeah, we don't get the national anthem song either, America the Beautiful
Hmm.
or the Star Spangled Banner.
Right.
We actually just get the announcers coming in, which we mentioned, Macho Man's coming in, Bobby the Brain's coming in, and Jim Ross comes in, and then we get straight to the first match.
Well, I mean, I don't know if you picked this up, but I love that Macho Man smell. He says, you smell worse than you usually do, and the camel is really hot about the situation.
Oh yeah.
And that really cracked me up. So he said that about Bobby the Brain Heenan. So
Mhm.
that was funny. I thought it was going to be a rough commentary with Macho, but it turned out pretty good. So,
Macho has his moments.
right.
His voice is a little rough because
Mhm.
he still has that "oh yeah, you know what I'm saying" type of gruff to his voice.
Right.
Um, like I didn't mind it for a couple of matches, but hearing him for about 2 hours plus, it eventually wears you down as far as in your earlobes.
Really, I really liked him.
Good.
And I like that Macho said, do the thing if you have the guts. I mean, I feel
Mhm.
like every time I watch Macho, he's dropping something or dropping some gems.
Yeah, he
So,
was dropping some good one-liners.
right.
I mean, for someone who said that he didn't see commentating, like being a commentator,
Hmm.
as something he wanted to do for the rest of his life at
Hmm.
this point in time, he's doing a pretty good job.
That's right. And I mean, we missed the original or the first match, which is a dark match
Yeah.
between Tito Santana and Papa Shango. So that was a singles match.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping to catch up with this.
Well, if I find it, I'll show it to you. But now the streak of having Tito Santana and Gorilla Monsoon at a WrestleMania has ended.
Wow. Tragic. Where's
So,
I'm playing my violin, guys.
the tiniest violin.
A little violin.
Yeah.
The tiniest one.
Mhm.
So that takes us, like you said, to the first match, which is Tatanka with the sensational Sherry.
Yes.
With Luna is it Vachon or Vachon? So a singles match for the WWF Intercontinental Championship.
Yeah.
What do you think about it?
Give me a second here. We have a comment here from my friend Raymond again. My friend Justin and I used to change the words to Cotton Eye Joe to Papa Shango. Hey, that actually works out. Where did he go, Papa Shango? So the feud pretty much starts off for this one. Primarily with Tatanka beating Shawn Michaels about 2 matches in a row.
Right.
And then at one point in time, the reason that the previous WrestleMania we had Shawn Michaels and Sherry together, but they're no longer together.
That's true.
Because Shawn had actually pulled Sherry in front of him to guard him from an attack that he was going to get from Tatanka.
Oh yes.
So Sherry did not like that.
I concur.
She did not like being used as a human shield, and she left.
That's right, Sherry.
And we actually get Luna Vachon here. And this is her first appearance, I think, at this point in time. What happened?
I'm just looking at the comments. Raymond says,
another one. Missed that one.
Tatanka makes 15% of Carlos's people proud.
Wow.
Hey, he took a 23andMe and his percentage is just a little higher.
It's
I
higher
can.
than 15%, Raymond.
Um, so I mean, what do you think? Who are you rooting for?
At this one, I'm rooting for Shawn Michaels. I really don't see much into Tonka.
Okay.
Like for me now, and thinking back to where I would have been rooting for in my teens here. So,
Mm.
what about yourself?
Well, I'm rooting for Tatanka in this match. Although I will say Shawn Michaels looks pretty awesome.
Hmm.
So I mean,
Yeah, he does take a while to take off all his ring gear too, right?
he really does. And I mean, this match went a little long for me. What was it? 18 minutes and 13
That's
seconds?
correct.
Did you feel like it went a little long for you?
I didn't feel like it went too long. I think it actually went like the right amount.
Mhm.
I just didn't like the way it finished,
Mm.
where it's just like a random count out, and you don't even see like the ref is actually counting.
Okay.
Like, what is it here? Tatanka reverses this move that Sean is trying to put on him,
Right.
and then the ref gets down like he's gonna like do the pin,
Mhm.
but for some reason the ref just gets up and calls for the bell,
Okay.
and then we don't get any explanation
Of what
of what
happened or
happened until later that it's a count out, because I'm like, oh, did he get disqualified or what happened?
yeah.
And then it ends up being that he actually got counted out.
And I felt like Tatanka rallies to wrap up this match. So
Hmm.
I thought I went a little long at 18-13. Would you recommend to our listeners or watchers that they watch this match?
No,
No?
I
Okay.
mean, just because of the
No.
finish.
Okay.
um there is some good technical work, and it's primarily done by Sean.
Okay.
Sean does a great job of taking the bumps and making Tatanka look good,
Right.
which if you're the heel, it's primarily your job to do that. Is you want the crowd the most, like 95% of the time,
Hmm.
to be on the side of the
But
face, the good guy.
not the heel. I'm all.
No, not the heel.
I hear that there are, you were explaining to me that there are some fans that are fans of just the heels.
Yeah, but it's not the majority.
I think that's interesting. So to me, that's pretty cool
Mm.
that you have fans that are like into the heel.
Yeah, you see them at wrestling events, and it's primarily like older people,
Okay.
and they'll like to mess around with the younger kids, and they'll be like, "Oh no, he sucks," blah blah blah.
They're like trolls in person.
Exactly.
I love it.
Hmm.
If you're listening, if you're watching and you are a fan of the heels, let us know in our comments below.
Yeah.
I'm super curious. So at that takes us to match 2.
Yeah. Well, we get Mean Gene in between matches interviewing the Steiner brothers.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is your first introduction to the Steiner brothers, Rick Steiner and Scott Steiner.
Yes.
You heard them talking at this point before the match.
Yes.
Did you have any like feelings after that promo or interview was cut? Like, I'm rooting for. Did that help sway you? Like when you saw them walking out, or were you still rooting for the Headshrinkers,
Okay.
Fatu and Samu?
Right. So like you said, match 2, which comes in at 14 minutes and 22 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
The Steiner brothers, Rick Steiner, Scott Steiner
Mm-hmm.
against the Head Shrinkers,
Mm-hmm.
Fatu with Afa.
Mm-hmm.
I'm rooting for both, which I know is a little funky. How can I? How can you do this? How
Mm-hmm.
can you root for both? But I did. I thought they both were pretty cool. And I think this is the first time I saw the Head Shrinkers. So I thought this
Yeah.
was pretty awesome.
Well,
Again, I'm a fan of a tag team match,
mm-hmm.
and I thought this one was a really good one. I do
Okay.
have some tidbits.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Get into it.
So okay, the Head Shrinkers.
Yes.
Um, they're a Samoan SWAT team, also known as the Samoan Gangster Party, which I thought
Okay.
was cool.
Mm-hmm.
Also known as Gangstas in Paradise. I don't know if they named themselves before or after the song.
I'm assuming this is after the song. I pretty much remember that that Gangster's Paradise with Coolio probably came out in '94.
I mean, that's
Mhm.
really interesting. What came before, the chicken or the egg? So we need to find that one out.
Yes.
And the team originally comprised, or was comprised of Fatu and Samu, but they had various iterations,
Yeah.
including Big Matty Smalls,
Mm.
Samoan Savage, and Sion, if I'm saying that right. And most members of the team were members of the Anoi family. So I apologize if I'm like
Butchering that.
butchering any of those
Ah,
names. But I have nothing but respect for.
the chicken came first. Aristotle said so, says our friend
Oh,
Arpan.
interesting. I'm a big fan of the Usos, Roman
Well, yeah,
Reigns.
you actually have a connection to the Usos here. We have their father. Fatu is actually known as Rikishi, who is the father of Jimmy and Jay, who I forgot what their actual real names are, but they are the tag team currently known as the Usos. Right now they're separate. And Solo Sokoa is also their brother, so he would be the father of Solo as well. We have Alpha, who is their uncle, and the reason,
I mean, they're part of the bloodline, right?
yeah, they're currently the ones that are, I guess, the tribal elders. And let's see, and Joshua's the other one. Raymond's referring to the real names of the Uso brothers.
Thank you.
Also, another note from our friend Raymond here on our Facebook Live. Also, Amish Paradise is better than Gangster Paradise. It is a better lyrical song, but the video is not as good. So I would have to call it even there.
Yeah, so I was
So,
super excited to see this introduction
mhm,
for me into the bloodline. So I had to do a little look up on that because I was
mhm,
super curious, very interested, and
mhm,
excited to see them wrestle.
mhm.
But I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about the Steiner brothers. They're
Yes.
pretty tall. Rick is 5'11", Scott is 6'1",
Mhm.
and their debut was in 1989.
Okay.
Oh, do you want me to tell more?
No, I mean, I think you had something more.
Okay, so they won 11 World Tag Team Championships,
Mhm.
one United States Tag Team Championship before disbanding in 1998.
Mhm.
So that's what I have.
Okay.
So what did you think about it?
About them?
Yeah, I mean the match in
Oh, the
total.
match? I thought the match was good. I was having no issues with like the wild excuse me, I wanted to call them the Wild Samoans, but the Headshrinkers, I had no problems with them.
Okay.
Uh actually, like, I didn't actually remember paying attention to this obviously when I was younger, so that means that I would have been rooting for the Steiner brothers
Okay.
if I had to make a choice, but I don't think I was a fan of the Steiner brothers either. So I probably just, like, young me would have just glazed over, but me paying attention now, I was a fan of the Headshrinkers, and Fatu did a lot of work in this match.
Yes.
And you can see primarily that this is, I guess, where you could say that the Uso brothers, Jimmy and Jay, would have been able to probably watch their father's old videos or tapes or get his lessons from them. And that's, as much as they're a great tag team, you're now seeing them kind of try to flourish on their own as a solo.
Hmm.
And this might be one of the rare occasions where you might get both of them actually being successful on their own.
Mm.
Another comment from our Facebook Live: Rick was always the better Steiner, except when it comes to math.
Oh.
Yeah. And
Hmm.
don't if you ever need your taxes done or need someone to balance your checkbooks, do not get Scott Steiner to do it.
Oh. Intriguing. So the
Mhm.
Steiner brothers defeat the Headshrinkers by pinfall. Are you satisfied with this win?
No, because I really think that the head shrinker should have won. I understand that it's like their actual like first match, like to try to build themselves momentum.
Okay.
For the Steiners, especially like the uh, the reputation that they've had in other federations or other wrestling groups.
Okay.
But the Headshrinkers did such a great job that I felt that they actually should have gotten the win.
Right. Yeah.
But
I agree with you. Dare I say that this tag team match.
Maria is being Baymax. Are you satisfied with this win?
Are you satisfied? I
Uh,
love that
yeah.
movie. And I love when he asks him.
Hmm.
Oh, wow. If you have not watched Baymax, it's a beautiful story.
Big Hero 6 is the actual movie,
Yes.
and then they make a little
Vignettes.
little like TV series, because this
Oh,
is when Disney was trying to make a TV series out of all the movies that they made.
okay.
So then they called it Baymax
But
and
Big
whatever.
Hero 6 is super sweet. The
Hmm.
animation is great. I love the story and I've watched it many times. So if you haven't watched it, please do because it's just really good and might give you all the feels.
Yeah. So is this one of your favorite matches? Would you recommend this match or?
I would recommend that you revisit the Mania with us and watch this match. It's definitely worth a rematch.
Yeah, and talking
I
about
mean, a
it,
rewatch. I
I
don't know. I
mean,
don't think we'd be able to get a rematch.
you
So.
would. You could get as many rematches out of it, but the conclusion is going to be the same. Nothing's ever going to change. But yeah. At first, this was one of my borderline matches, but talking it with you and like seeing more and paying more attention to my notes
Yeah.
and like everything that Fatu or Rikishi, as he's going to be known later, does in this match.
Hmm.
uh, I would recommend someone watches it because Rikishi later on doesn't get as much credit as he should for the amount of time that he's been wrestling. But at that time, we hadn't known that he'd been wrestling all the way back to WrestleMania '93, unless you were really paying attention. And we're getting those Wrestling Observer magazines or
Wow.
had early access to the internet. And
Were you also getting Word Up magazine?
no,
No. Okay.
so yeah, I definitely recommend that if you are looking to watch WrestleMania 9 and you only have 14 minutes and 22 seconds to watch, please watch this match of the Headshrinkers versus the Steiner brothers.
Can we
And
talk?
I'm back to choosing the tag team match for my WrestleMania favorite matches.
So this is a favorite for you.
Yeah,
All
and I agree
right.
with Raymond. It's sad that a generation of fans only know Rikishi as the guy that rubs his assets on his opponent's faces. Yes, and that's why I recommend people to watch this match, Raymond, because there's a lot of work that he puts into this match. That looking at my notes and reading everything over, that I'm like, wow, I'm very impressed with the way Rikishi did the work in this match.
I love to hear it. So if you're curious, like I was about, well, tag team matches in general, because tag team matches have been my favorite. The first recorded tag team match in professional wrestling was by San Francisco promoters in 1901. So to add some diversity of entertainment to their cards, it was introduced as a regional gimmick, but it gained national attention in the 30s. So just a thank you. I read
I
that on sports.com,
I wonder
lastwordsports.com.
if that would have been something that came from one of the Samoan people, because I remember reading I think for the first WrestleMania
Yeah.
that High Chief Peter Maivia had a lot of work that he was doing in San Francisco. So I'll have to look
Interesting.
back into that,
Okay.
unless our viewer Raymond knows or has the internet more readily available to him. Uh, so this leads us to match 3.
3. Numero 3.
Yes, we had the introduction of Doink the Clown versus Crush. Now, Maria,
Yes.
this is your first introduction to Doink the Clown,
Terrifying. Yes.
but not the person who plays Doink the Clown.
This is true.
You have seen Matt Bourne before, and here he is
And the Born Identity.
Born again and coming back as Doink. And then we have Crush. It was formerly of Demolition.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to be a Hawaiian surfer gimmick. I'm not sure exactly what it was doing here.
Okay.
But I know you're not a fan of clowns, but I want to say that I think you would have been rooting for Doink regardless.
Can we talk about why I'm not a fan of clowns?
If you want to, go ahead.
I actually talked about this story today, which is really, which falls in line with match 3 in my introduction to Doink. So my uncle Peppy got me this awesome looking clown that was pretty long but had like movable parts where you can like move its arms and move its legs.
Mhm.
And I was a child when I got it. So my mother actually moved it around in different places, like with its arm like this or its arms folded. And I thought this clown was moving around. So for quite some time after seeing that and watching it, I was pretty terrified of clowns.
Oh, so you thought you had like some type of child's play Chucky doll on
I
your
really
hands.
did. And I actually tried tossing it into the garbage. She found it. And then I finally got rid of it by throwing it out into the garbage all the way in the back outside because I'm like, this clown.
Or did you? It's right here. No.
Oh, no.
And Raymond adding another comment that Crush is from Hawaii.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yes, Crush's real name was Brian Adams, not to be confused with the Canadian pop legend that sings that song from
Which one?
Robin Hood with Kevin Costner.
Robin Hood.
What's the name of that song? I know Raymond knows it. He probably did some karaoke on that song. But while we wait for Raymond to answer this, so Doink, were you with him or were you against him on Team Crush?
I'm rooting for Team Crush.
Okay.
He was crushing it in his neon yellow and his orange spandex. Like I said, Doink is like a literal nightmare for me with the scary music and everything. So like you said, Matt Osborne, Doink the Clown. What do you think? Who was your fave?
Well, I just wanted to let you know that everything I do
What? Yes.
Is the name of the song that Brian Adams did in Robin Hood.
Oh, you got me.
But that I was actually more of a fan of Doink in here. As far as like Matt Bourne did something here that was more entertaining than he did in WrestleMania 1.
Okay.
Obviously, he was going against Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, and it was pretty hard at that moment in time to kind of go one-on-one with Ricky the Dragon.
Right.
But Matt found his calling. You always say you have to find your gimmick in order to succeed in this business, and he found it with Doink.
Right.
And I think he did a real good job here of being the antagonist to Crush. So at first Crush is getting like his licks in and everything like that, and then Doink starts getting into it. But I think the part I like most is when he's trying to go under the ring and you don't know what he's doing. And I think in theory, even though that kind of got goofed there, I think Doink Matt Osborne was supposed to go under the ring, stay there, and then reappear on the other side.
Wow.
But it wasn't going to be him. It was going to be the other Doink that we get that appears with the prosthetic arm that keeps hitting that keeps hitting Crush until the prosthetic quote unquote cast breaks, and then he's supposed to come in for the pin probably.
And Raymond, from RPAD TV, I am glad that you talk about that. You say Crush was one of the first guys I remember being fired in real life and on air. They announced on TV that he was arrested for drug possession. And you hate to hear it, but that's also what I saw is that he was fired for reoccurring drug abuses and eventually leaving the gimmick. What I was surprised to hear is that Doink was replayed by other wrestlers.
Yeah,
So,
one of them, I think his name was Ray Apollo.
okay.
That wasn't his real Apollo, wasn't his real last name.
Okay.
So he has no relation to Apollo Cruz, in case you're wondering, Raymond. But yeah, I think what I ended up, if I remember this correctly, Doink the Clown, Matt Osborne, the original guy, ends up getting fired because of drug or substance abuse usage. And I think it's because, if I remember the story right, there's a wrestler named Bam Bam Bigelow that he didn't get along with,
Okay.
because I think Bam Bam was either clean or he didn't like the drugs that Matt was using at the time.
Right.
So I think what the stories are is that he ended up telling Vince, and then Vince didn't like that, and then he got fired, and then they gave it to that Ray Apollo guy.
A little bit of wrestling tea. Wow.
Speaking of, we get to the next match.
So does that take us to match 4?
Yeah, we have introduction to two new wrestlers to you besides Doink. We get Razor Ramon, the bad guy, versus Bob Backlund. This match goes for 3 minutes and 45 seconds.
Not a long match.
No, it's not a very
compared
long
to what
match.
we've been seeing, right?
No, all the previous matches at least have gone more than 8 minutes. So,
anything? Yes. I mean, Razor Ramon
the bad guy.
Awesome. And ladies and gents, I am impressed. I mean, he has razor precision.
Oh, okay.
And his look is razor sharp.
Okay.
And I asked you if Bob Backlund was a real wrestler at first, which I apologize, everybody, because he is most definitely not only a wrestler, but a longtime wrestler.
Yes.
But I did hear Bobby Heenan say he's a paper boy in Mayberry, which I thought was a little funny. So
yeah.
I mean, I'm a fan of
Bob Backlund,
but
more of Razor Ramon.
But also a fan of that one show in Mayberry.
So you're a fan of the Andy Griffith show.
The Andy Griffith show, yeah. Okay. So I like the reference.
All right. Scott Hall, which is Razor Ramon's real name, made a lot of money pretending to be Cuban.
What?
Yes, his character kind of was supposed to be based off of that guy Manolo from the Scarface movie.
What? That's so crazy. I mean, but also rest in peace, Razor Ramon.
Yes, fortunately, everything caught up to Scott, and as much as he kept fighting the demons of substances and alcohols, it was just too much for him.
I do like some of the other monikers that he has during his time in wrestling.
Yeah. Raymond just brought a couple of up, but go ahead.
Yeah, so a few of his monikers were American Starship Coyote.
Wow.
Okay. If I'm wrong, let me know. I could, like I said.
No. You looked this up, so I'm pretty sure you already crossed your T's and dotted your I's. Go ahead, keep going.
Scott Hall, Texas Scott, and Diamond Stud. Okay. But I have to say my favorite out of all of those is Razor Ramon, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I think that was all of our favorites. And then Raymond wanted me to show you this picture of Scott Hall when he's younger.
Yes, I saw that one.
And he has this Gentile bro, as Raymond put it in his comments.
Is that what you put, Raymond?
Yeah, I'm not making this up.
Oh, okay.
Why would I misquote something that's right in front of me?
I had to question. I'm like, question mark. Yeah. Wow, that is so interesting.
Right?
He looks a little like Steven Seagal in his older years, though. A little bit.
Oh, right here, yeah.
Yeah, a little tiny bit.
Yeah.
I have to say this match is a lot of fun, and I feel like they both have great moves. Definitely worth 3 minutes and 45 seconds of your time. And definitely worth a rewatch. What do you think?
Of this match, yeah, I really don't recommend anybody. No, I mean, This is pretty much like a squash job. Backlund's supposed to get Razor over and make him look like, you know, good.
Yes.
So make him look menacing, make him look like a threat. So that's what ended up happening. So
Wow. I mean, I actually have to say I would recommend that you watch this, and this was my second favorite match.
okay.
So, watch it, don't watch it. 3 minutes and 45 seconds.
Mhm.
We've done worse than that amount of time.
That's true.
Or done less.
Okay, Scott Hall and Dan Spivey were the starships: Starship Coyote and Starship Eagle.
Whoops. Is
What
that a whoopsie?
what happened to Starship Cobra?
Like Cobra Commander or something else?
Well, that's the name of a band.
Oh.
But moving on to the next match, which is
Match 5.
yeah, Money Inc.
I'm really pumped for this one. Do people still say pumped?
We're technically in 1993, so yeah, you can definitely say.
Are we pumping up the jam?
Yeah.
So match 5 with Money Inc., Ted DiBiase and Erwin
IRS, Erwin R. Shyster.
Also they're facing the Megamaniacs, Hulk Hogan, and Brutus the Barber Beefcake.
Yeah, and actually, it is Cobra Starship, not Starship Cobra, the band that I was referring to.
What kind of music do they play? Is it like?
I'll let you know, but oh
no,
we can't repeat that.
We
one,
cannot
Raymond.
say that. Oh no.
But Cobra Starship was an American dance rock band from New York City.
Oh, that's pretty cool. I can't wait to take a listen.
Yeah, I knew I recognized that. But at this, we have Hulk Hogan muscling in on another championship here as he faces Money Inc.
Not to be confused with Murder Inc.
Yeah, don't. There's no way you should be able to confuse the two.
Which is an American record label.
Mm-hmm.
Founded by Chris and Irv Gotti 25 years ago.
Oh, wow.
So, and just so everybody knows, because of course you want to know, my favorite artists from that label are Ashanti and Ja Rule.
Is Ashanti still part of Money Inc.?
I'll double check and then I'll follow up with y'all.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So the Mega Maniacs are now being managed by Jimmy Hart. And the reason this came about is one, Jimmy got tired of being treated poorly on the road.
Okay.
I'm sure if
wonder what that was like.
You know, like people are really buying into the kayfabe, quote unquote, the stories that the wrestling companies make up for the fans to believe.
Okay.
And just like people who follow a certain political faction believe the stories that are put out there by a certain orange, fake, blonde.
Oh my god, toes.
Convict or whatever he's currently facing. Oh. You know, some people believe it too much, and then they take that a little bit too personally, and sometimes they attack or or berate wrestlers.
Oh no!
So
don't do that. Wrestlers are people too.
Exactly. So
wow, wrestlers have feelers.
Jimmy pretty much decides that he actually wants to be a good guy for once. So he sets up this situation where they want IRS or Ted DiBiase to hurt. Yes, that is correct, Raymond. I'm about to get to that. Wait, didn't Beefcake have a broken face at this time? Actually, he was already healed of his broken face, the broken face that he suffered when his parasailing accident was in 91. So this is 2 years removed for that. So that's people still weren't comfortable with wrestling with Brutus, and that's why he needed to have that mask. But that's the whole thing is that Money Inc. had got a hold of Brutus the Barber, and they were gonna start pummeling his face, and they wanted Jimmy Hart to actually start pummeling his face too. But Jimmy did not want to do it, and then when IRS tried to do it, he got in the way between IRS and Brutus, and he essentially saved Brutus's face.
His heart wasn't in it.
No, his heart was on the side of good this time. So
So I mean,
that's how he ended up managing the Mega Maniacs.
so Hulk looks a little slimmer.
Yes, and he's also sporting a black eye.
I had asked him, like, what is that? Super pink eye, or what was happening with his eye?
Well,
It looked really freaky.
according to the kayfabe interview that we get before the match,
Okay.
the $1 million or the multi-million-dollar man
Mm-hmm.
actually got to pay somebody to take care of Hulk Hogan.
Okay.
But at this point in time, revealing what's behind the curtain is Macho Man had actually punched Hulk Hogan in the face.
For realsies? Like, for real?
Yes, I just said we're pulling back the curtain.
Oh, sorry. I'm like, what?
The reason for this is because at this time he's having actual in real life marital problems with Elizabeth,
Oh.
and Macho Man believes that Hulk Hogan is with Elizabeth and doing inappropriate things with her.
Mm.
And that's how he ends up with the black guy that we see him appear at the event of WrestleMania 9. Even
Whoa.
though the WWF now E is trying to tell you that this happened because the multi-million-dollar man had hired goons to try to take out Hogan so they wouldn't have to face him tonight.
Wow, that's intense. Whew. So with that said, who are you rooting for?
I would have been rooting for Money Inc.
Okay, me too. I'm rooting for Money Inc.
Mm-hmm.
I think Beefcake and DiBiase are great. I've never seen the Hulk wrestle the $1 Million Man during a WrestleMania, and I just want to take a moment to appreciate how cool that is.
Yeah.
So, if I'm young Maria watching this, and even me, I guess old Maria now, I just thought it was super cool. I'm like, all right. I mean, here we have the $1 Million Man, who sometimes I call the $2 Million Man because of his hair. We have him facing off with the Hulk, and I thought that was pretty awesome. So what do you think?
About this match, I thought it was okay. We get Hulk Hogan obviously going over.
Okay.
He could not lose, even though he also didn't get the belts because this match ended in a disqualification because of Hulk Hogan's use of the mask. They eventually during this match get Brutus's mask off. Money Inc. does, and they actually try to use it. But before they could use it, Hulk Hogan cuts them off, and then he uses it on them.
I like that Macho has a comment where he's like, this match is sped up and slowed down at the same time, which is pretty funny to me because I'm like, how is that possible? I thought Beefcake put on really great production, and Beefcake takes Iris and DiBiase out. Somebody said it's a club sandwich, hold the mayo.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, I was just laughing at the commentary throughout this match.
I wonder what that meant.
And also, what a manager. Jimmy flips into his ref coat.
Yeah. We tries to get those guys of the Mega Maniacs the tag team championship belts. But guess what? He's not a real referee, so it doesn't really count that Jimmy Hart counted the 1, 2, 3.
I mean, shout out to whoever made his outfit or his costume.
I think if it wasn't Jimmy himself that did that,
yeah,
he probably helped design those things.
I mean, that's a really good idea. It's just, made that story even just a little bit better. For our audience watching, I just realized that when our very own co-host Carlos is having a great time, he also does the Hulk Hogan move. So when he's having an amazing time, what do? You do this?
What?
I'm not doing it justice.
Am I doing a Q-tip?
No, not the
in my ears.
But you do the Hulk Hogan.
Oh, I do the Hulk Hogan.
You do that. And I'm like, it took me how many WrestleManias to realize?
It took you 9 WrestleManias plus, because I guess we don't count the time. But yes, it took you 9 WrestleManias to realize for the past 9 WrestleManias when Hulk Hogan celebrates in the ring, besides doing his poses, He actually does the "I can't hear you" type of hand swirling hand to my ear.
And you've been doing that for years. So
Exactly.
that was pretty cool for me.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, did you have any other comments? Because I feel like that takes us to match seis.
Yeah, but Hogan actually does that because he's old and deaf, according to my friend Raymond.
Same.
That's also the reason I do it, because sometimes I can't hear anybody.
Can't hear you.
Yeah.
We need one of those horns.
Yeah, I know I need one of those things that turn your headphones up,
Turn your headphones up.
turn them up.
Turn them up.
So do you recommend this match, or
Yeah.
you do?
I do recommend this match.
Okay.
I thought it was pretty cool.
All right.
Would recommend the watch.
All right, so this is your third favorite match then?
This is my third favorite match.
Okay.
Yes.
So you've had 3 and I've only had 2, I believe.
This is definitely my third favorite match. Yep.
So the next match we have here is match number 6. But before we get to match number 6, we have our new, I guess, reporter in the field, Todd Pettingill.
Right.
Who took over for Sean Mooney.
Okay.
Sean Mooney has left the company, and I believe at this time he's in WCW, where Todd Pettingill comes from local New York radio DJ.
Okay.
Background. So
very interesting.
We see the daughter of Nat King Cole, Natalie Cole.
Yeah, that was pretty
in
cool.
the audience. And I guess the only other kind of pseudo celebrity we get is the CEO of Caesars, Dan Reichertz.
He had like a really spiky eyebrow, like a supervillain. I'm sure he's not. I haven't looked him up or anything like that.
I'm sure he probably was a supervillain in The Office, because he doesn't last very long as the Caesars CEO.
Oh, dun dun dun. Wow. So match 6, Lex Luger.
Yeah. So we get also interview.
Yes.
By Mean Gene with Mr. Perfect.
Yes.
So at this point in time, we actually have Mr. Perfect call Lex Luger the Lexorcist, and I'm wondering why that didn't stick.
Oh. So we talk about, that thank you to the seamstress that made Lex's outfit. That outfit was pretty awesome. Also, somebody brings out mirrors, and it looks like they're going to set them on fire.
Yeah, it's actually, give me a second. There we have a little thing that my wife has to go take care of, so I'll go ahead and take it from here. Yes, Raymond, that is correct. The gimmick that Lex Luger had at this time was as of the narcissist. So, as the narcissists tend to do, he actually comes to the ring with beautiful showgirls holding mirrors to feed into his narcissist gimmick. And at that point in time, for some reason, they decided to put sparklers on top of these mirrors. So who knows why that happened? So we have Mr. Perfect here, who gave a great promote until he stuttered and called Lex Luger the Lexorcist. But it was fun to see Mean Gene actually and Mr. Perfect try to keep a straight face at the end when Mr. Perfect ends up saying the Lexorcist. So while I'm buying some time for my wife to come back while she attends to our son, I'm going to go ahead and give a little recap of the match here with some back and forth wrist locks. Here, when Mr. Perfect is in control, you can hear that the crowd is actually cheering for him. And since we've seen Mr. Perfect here in WWE WrestleManias, he's actually been the heel. So hearing the crowd behind Mr. Perfect is a little weird for me because it's not a lot of times that Mr. Perfect is a babyface. They go back and forth here, and Mr. Perfect hits him with his perfect chops, and you can hear them loud and clear. I don't think you need any microphone enhancements on those. And so, Mr. Perfect gets back into the ring after he goes outside to chase Luger. And then when he's getting back into the ring, he ends up hitting Mr. Perfect in the back. And at this point in time, he starts working on Mr. Perfect's back. I don't believe at this time he's has that torture rack finisher move that he ends up adopting and using in WCW. But because we never get to that point for this match here, we get uh, pretty much the match ends with one of them. They get kind of tied up and they try to do a crucifix pin on each other. And who's gonna win? Is it Lex or is it Mr. Perfect? Lex actually is the one that wins, and it's kind of like one of those crucifix pins, like a bomb type of thing. But Mr. Perfect's feet are actually on the ropes, and unlike the previous pinfall that I didn't describe here, um, the ref does not see Mr. Perfect's feet, and he calls the 1, 2, 3 pinning one for Lex Luger. After this, Mr. Perfect gets knocked out. After Mr. Perfect comes to, he realizes that Lex Luger has cheated and runs after him. When he runs back after him into the backstage area, Lex Luger is actually talking to Shawn Michaels. He pushes Lex Luger aside, and Shawn Michaels starts attacking Mr. Perfect, and then they start going at it. And then at that point in time, that they end up getting separated by security, and that actually leads for the feud between Mr. Perfect and Shawn Michaels to start up there. All right, here. Now, I'm trying to look at my wife's notes. It looks like she has something where she quips here that she believes that they're calling the wrong person Mr. Perfect and that Lex is giving Mr. Perfect a run for his money. She also believes that she may be wrong, but Lex doesn't have any wrestling finesse in this match. Yes, I agree that she does not have any that Lex does not have any wrestling finesse in this match. Um, and as we see here, as she's getting close to her notes at the end of the match, she is upset with the way that Lex ends up winning this match and believes that it was a horrible situation. Yes, I agree, Raymond. Another comment here from our Facebook Live: Lex is trash compared to Kurt. I believe that as well. There's a lot of times and instances where Mr. Perfect is doing a lot of things to help the new talent or the people that Vince has brought in that he believes is the wave of the future. But as my wife pointed out in her notes, there's something missing here, and it doesn't feel like Lex has any finesse or has any type of wrestling chops here. Maybe because he has like that bodybuilding competition mindset uh like background, because that's how primarily how he came in, because of the World Bodybuilding Federation, and he's not uh a wrestler traditionally. But yeah, there is something weird, and it's I don't know why they feel that there's something there with Lex, because I don't see it. I guess Vince wanted to get the eyes of the other gender, the women primarily, who probably get dragged to these wrestling events along with their husbands or their boyfriends, or for some reason manage to get free tickets. So, another note from my friend Raymond: any kids that aspire to be wrestlers should watch Kurt's matches. He was so good. Kurt's matches with Brett were an optimal blend of looking hard hitting while keeping everyone safe. Yeah, I agree, Raymond, that there's a lot of things I believe that Kurt does very well. He sells when he needs to sell, to get the face over, to make him look like, there's no way that Kurt will actually be able to beat, Mr. Perfect would actually be able to beat Bret Hart in this sense, in this example that you brought up. But also Lex Luger. I mean, if you're looking physique wise, yeah, there's no way that someone should be thinking that Lex should be losing to Kurt or Mr. Perfect. Um, Another comment from Raymond here, where he says that unfortunately Mr. Perfect's skills are not genetic, and I agree, but there's also, I think, one of those things where maybe he did not have it in him. He, you know, Kurt Hennig found something, I guess, in that Mr. Perfect gimmick, because once he leaves Vince, which happens pretty shortly after WrestleMania, um, to go over to WCW, he doesn't have a lot of success there. And I'm not sure why any of the promoters did not see Kurt as being the guy. Like, by the guy, we mean like the man who will be carrying the championship title, where back in those days it would have been from territory to territory, or in this instance, like headline of WrestleMania. But I wish that Mr. Perfect would have been able to find that match, or that gimmick or something to put him over more, to get him out there. Yeah, that probably was it too, Raymond. Good point. That he didn't care that when he was in WCW, he was making a ton of money and hanging out with his friends. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I think that is an accurate statement. Probably, we would never know unless we go down the rabbit hole and dig up some interviews. And now my wife is back, and give me a second. Just catching up my wife on the things I went over here, and finishing up the notes of the Mr. Perfect Lex Luger. Is there anything in here on your notes that you wanted to add before we move on from the Mr. Perfect Lex Luger match?
Well, I mean, I think we talked about Lex's outfit, which is super cool. Those mirrors, like they were gonna set him on fire.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you wrote, I'm like, this man is on fire. The
No.
audience is shaken.
Oh, God.
Mr. Perfect has to come out after that. Was like, wow. That's like going on after Dave Chappelle. You just have like somebody amazing, and then you're like, here I am. But I thought Mr. Perfect's fans were still excited to see him.
Yeah.
He's wearing a neon yellow ensemble, and I'm with Macho. This is a match I'm waiting to see.
Okay.
I think they're calling the wrong person. Mr.
Yeah, I did
Perfect.
mention that. Yeah.
Because that Lex is giving him a run for his money. So those are my notes.
Okay. Raymond had something here when I mentioned that you were going away for a little bit. He thought you were going to come back with airbrush muscles like Giant Gonzalez.
I'm telling you.
He also mentions that this Lex is on fire.
I think.
So let's go ahead and move on here to The Undertaker with Paul Bearer versus Giant Gonzalez now that we are here.
Yes.
So at this point in time, unfortunately, I will have to go solo again
Sorry,
while my
guys,
wife
I have to
attends.
go.
We thought we would have time to get this in since it was supposed to be someone's bedtime, but unfortunately, they had other plans. So, Undertaker with Paul Bearer versus Giant Gonzalez. And this whole feud pretty much originates from Harvey Whippleman just having it out for The Undertaker. And because he has it out for The Undertaker, and The Undertaker has been besting everyone in Harvey Whippleman's stable, he calls upon the Giant Gonzalez. Now, the Giant Gonzalez is a former basketball player from Argentina turned wrestler who caught the eye of Ted Turner. And Ted Turner is like, hey, I own a wrestling promotion in Atlanta called WCW. Would you mind joining it? And he shows him how much money he's willing to pay him. And Giant Gonzalez is like, yes, please, let's go. So they go ahead and get this started here. Giant Gonzalez is way taller than The Undertaker. And we do see that this might be The Undertaker's toughest challenge yet. Um, let's see here. So, Giant Gonzalez is pretty much mocking The Undertaker. And another comment here from Raymond, our Facebook Live. He's pretty sure God or Zeus gave us Lionel Messi to make up for the travesty that was Giant Gonzalez. Well, I bet that there's people in Soldier Field right now that do not agree with that because Inter Milan Miami Football Club decided not to put Messi out on the pitch today. So everyone who was scalping Chicago Fire versus Miami Football Club tickets were pretty much down to selling them for the best that they can get. So people who were looking to sell them for $300 were looking to get something back. And I think the last thing I saw is that someone was offering $50 for a pair of tickets to go see the Messi-less Miami Football Club. So after the Giant Gonzalez mocks the Undertaker and starts to hit Taker on his back, the Undertaker starts hitting back the Giant Gonzalez with his patented punches and backs him into a corner. The Undertaker's on the second rope and is then low blowed by Gonzalez, I believe. And it's hard to tell because of the camera angle. Gonzalez then tries to go for a splash, but Undertaker moves out of the way. Undertaker strikes Gonzalez and drags him back into the corner, and that's when he does his standing rope walk that we get to see him do until he gets a little bit older in age there. He gets Gonzalez back in the corner and wails on him. Undertaker goes and tries to go for a clothesline, but Gonzalez gets his boot up. And then the Taker at this point in time is now stuck in the corner and is launched to another. The Giant Gonzalez gets a reverse chin lock on the Undertaker. The Undertaker goes down on his knees and starts fighting back until the Giant whips him out of the ring. Gonzalez then goes after him and attacks him. He rams to Undertaker's face on the steps and then whips him into the steps. And Gonzalez climbs back, and then Paul raises Undertaker with the urn. The Undertaker gets back in the ring and then gets headbutted down, but sits back up a couple of times, as is his patented way of also when he takes a big move. He always does his sit up type of gimmick where, to prove that he's the dead man or that he didn't actually feel any of the impact or blows that were put upon him. Paul the Giant is at that point trading blows with the Undertaker again, and the Undertaker starts landing more blows. The Giant gets down to one knee, and at this point, Harvey Whoopman gets on the apron, and the Undertaker sees him, and he knocks him off the apron. When that point in time, when Whippleman gets hit, Paul Bearer gets on the apron, and then the Giant Gonzalez gets him and then is knocked down. Gonzalez is then smothering Undertaker with a towel, which I don't recall seeing how the Giant Gonzalez grabbed the towel or got in possession of the towel. And at first, Bobby and JR are trying to say that he's trying to smother them. And then I guess someone got the notes to the Macho Man, because Macho Man is the only one that's saying that it has some type of chloroform or whatever is on it. Yes, it was supposed to be chloroform, but nobody knew. I don't think anyone knew the name Raymond, or they didn't get the notes or didn't know how to read it. But Macho was the only one that started making it known that it's actually chloroform on that. And then the ref calls it at that point in time because the Undertaker is no longer able to continue. The gurney is brought out, and the Giant Gonzalez then chokeslams the referee. The Undertaker is taken out of the ring on the gurney. The crowd is chanting either bullshit or Hogan. It's hard to tell. And then the Undertaker's music, the dong hits, and then the Undertaker comes back. The Undertaker starts hitting the Giant Gonzalez with many clotheslines, and especially his flying lariat clothesline. And then he eventually just kicks out the Giant Gonzalez from the ring. Undertaker is still trying to take the fight to the Giant Gonzalez, but Paul Bearer is holding him back, quote unquote, because I know anyone will know that there's no way that Paul Bearer would actually be able to hold back Undertaker if Undertaker really wanted to get to somebody. And the Undertaker streak is continuing here as the Undertaker is 3-0. And this one, he gets the win by disqualification. And another note from our friend Raymond: Randy got a D+ and O Chem. All right. Well, my wife is still trying to make her way back here. Let's see what we have here. She has noted here that he is the tallest wrestler. Giant Gonzalez is the tallest wrestler in the history of professional wrestling to compete for both the WWF/E now and WCW. He was billed as being 8 foot tall and 460 pounds. Oh, okay. The Giant Gonzalez actually took part in the 1988 NBA draft, and I guess that's how he met up Ted Turner, because he was drafted by the Atlanta Hawks, and I believe that's when Ted Turner was actually in Atlanta, because of course he owned TBS. And let's see here. She notes here that she is not a fan of the Undertaker's outfit, but she is a fan of the Giant, and she thought that this match was okay. So this is not one of Maria's favorite matches, and it is also not one of my favorite matches. I believe that they continue this feud into SummerSlam, but after that, they do not get a third rubber match. I believe the way it goes down is the Undertaker beats the Giant Gonzalez, I believe, in a casket match or something along those lines. No, it couldn't have been a casket match. Well, anyways, the Giant Gonzalez loses, and of course, Harvey's going off on him, Harvey Whippleman, because he's trying to get to the Undertaker and take him down. And at this point in time, Giant Gonzalez is not having any of it, and he decides to leave the services of Harvey Whippleman behind. So that is okay match from me and my wife Maria. She does not recommend this from what I'm seeing in her notes, and I do not either. We're almost near the end here as we have our eighth match. Yokozuna, who has Mr. Fuji back here as his manager. Mr. Fuji took, I guess, a couple of WrestleManias off, or maybe just one, as Demolition was no longer together. And he came back with Yokozuna. And actually, a fun fact here, Yokozuna was actually paired up with the Headshrinkers and the previous promotion they were at, which I believe was WCW. But when they came over to WWF now Vince thought it'd be better if they got separated and pretty much had no history tied to each other. Uh, so this match has the champion Bret Hart. He's back at being the heavyweight champion. And this match goes for 8 minutes and 55 seconds. All right. So Yokozuna is a very big man. And what happens here is that Bret decides to get a running drop kick on Yokozuna, and Yokozuna just shakes him off. Yokozuna then. That is correct. Yokozuna was an Anoa'i. I still butchered it, I believe, and formed a counter click with the Undertaker. I believe the counter click, you're referring to the click that we know in the WWF, which comprised of Scott Hall and Kevin Nash, which isn't here, I believe, right now in this timeline of WrestleMania 9, and Shawn Michaels, correct? So while I wait for Raymond to reply back in our Facebook Live chat here, uh, continue here. Brett finally gets to tie up Yokozuna and trips him up. Brett goes off while Yokozuna is tied up in the ropes and lands a mid rope elbow, which is one of his panic moves. The ref finally gets Yokozuna free, and Brett tries to get Yokozuna back down, but Yokozuna is in control. Okay, I don't remember this. The Bone Street Crew was Yokozuna, The Undertaker, The Godfather, Henry Godwin, Rikishi, Savio Vega, and Midian. Oh, good little fun fact, Raymond. Thank you very much for chiming in here. It's funny here that during this match, as Bret Hart is down and being dominated by Yokozuna, we actually get chants of USA by the crowd. The funny thing is that if Yokozuna is technically being billed from Japan and Bret Hart is being billed from Canada, who would the USA chants actually be benefiting? So Yokozuna wears down Bret, but Yokozuna at this point in time, um, Yokozuna starts wearing down Brett, and Brett tries to reverse it. As Brett is trying to gain momentum, Yokozuna hits a super kick on Bret Hart to regain control. Yokozuna wears down Bret again. He throws him into the corner. Yokozuna tries to splash Bret, but he moves and lands a bulldog. Bret Hart moves and then lands a bulldog from the top rope on Yokozuna. Bret starts to get on a roll and starts to give him a few punches in the corner, and then Bret pulls off the turnbuckle. Yokozuna tries to ram Bret into the exposed turnbuckle, but then Bret reverses it and hits Yokozuna into the exposed turnbuckle. At this point, Yokozuna falls down, and then we didn't think it was possible, but Bret Hart manages to get Yokozuna in the sharpshooter. While Yokozuna is fighting to get out of the sharpshooter, Mr. Fuji starts reaching for his satchel that he has in his kimono, and of course he gets out his salt, his ceremonial salt, and he throws it into Bret Hart's eyes. At that point, Yokozuna rolls up Bret for the 1-2-3 pin and win, and we have a new world WWF World's Heavyweight Champion. Yokozuna continues to try to beat up Bret Hart, and at this point in time, who is to come out and save Bret Hart but the American, real American hero, Hulk Hogan. So as Hulk Hogan is getting Bret Hart out of the ring and to safety, uh, Mr. Fuji, for some reason, decides to get on the mic, and he's calling Hulk Hogan out, and which to me doesn't make any sense because Yokozuna just won the title and Hulk Hogan doesn't have any titles. Why would he be calling out Hulk Hogan? So as they're leaving, Mr. Fuji calls Hulk Hogan yellow and the chicken, and that's it. Bret gets permission from Bret to go out and challenge Yokozuna for the title, and we get an impromptu match. Yes, I agree, Raymond. This post match was such garbage. I hated it for Yokozuna, Bret, Samoans, and Canadians, really the entire world. Yes. And that leads me back to my banner that I had up earlier. Are we tired of Hulk Hogan yet? Because as at this point in time, I think I've been not a fan of Hulkamania since WrestleMania maybe 3. So it's been a long while, a long, long road for this, I guess, road for me to be anti Hogan. And during this rewatch, so yeah, so uh, Hogan gets held by Yokozuna, but when he gets into the ring, Mr. Fuji tries to hit him with the salt again, and this time Hogan ducks. He hits a running clothesline on Yokozuna, and then he has the leg drop, and it's a pin and win, and we have a new champion. 22 seconds later, after the original new champion was just crowned. So, yeah, Hulk Hogan is back on top of the world. And unfortunately for Rodney or Yokozuna, this is how it ended up going down here. It was later believed in a conversation that Bret Hart had with Vince McMahon that Hulk Hogan would actually drop the title to Bret Hart. But Hulk Hogan states in another interview that he doesn't recall having that conversation or having that deal done with Vince that he should drop the title to Bret, that he should actually drop it to a heel. And then at that point in time, that heel that was still going for the title was Yokozuna. Uh, And all three men eventually, Yokozuna, Hulk Hogan, and Bret Hart, ended up having a meeting again with Mr. McMahon where they outlined the future plan here. With Hogan would drop the belt to Yokozuna, and that Bret Hart was at that point told that he would not get another shot at the title. And Raymond is adding a sad fact to this chat. Yokozuna died in Liverpool. Speculation is pretty sure your football club was involved. I don't believe that the Liverpool Football Club had anything to do with the death of Yokozuna. I mean, it's easy for you to believe that is something because you are unfortunately a Manchester City supporter. But what can you do? We all can't be fans of the Reds. So I think I hear the pitter patter of my wife returning here. So we can go ahead and finish up with her matches and notes that I might have missed here because I think I did go through your Undertaker and Giant Gonzalez notes. So if there's anything I might have missed that you want to give out and give a recap, I just finished the Yokozuna 2 matches.
Okay.
And then we'll go over our favorite matches and call it a night.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think that pretty much takes us to our final matches. So my favorite matches were the second match. The Steiner brothers, Rick Steiner and Scott Steiner, defeated the Headshrinkers and Fatu with Alpha by pinfall. So that's my first. Match 4 with Razor Ramon, he defeated Bob Backlund by pinfall, which was a singles match, 3 minutes and 45 seconds. Match 5, Money Inc., Ted DiBiase and IRS defeated the Megamaniacs.
Right.
Hulk Hogan and Brutus the Barber Beefcake.
Right.
With Jimmy Hart by disqualification.
Right.
And then my last and favorite match was match 6. Lex Luger, who defeated Mr. Perfect by pinfall singles match at 10 minutes and 56 seconds.
Okay, so you ended up having 4 favorite recommendations here. Okay.
I did. I thought this was a really pretty good Wrestlemania. The last match that you went over, which was about 22 seconds, was my least favorite. Yoko was definitely assaulted towards the end. 22 seconds. I was just like, what? Don't blink, you might miss it. So did you have favorite matches? I know you had one.
My favorite match was also the tag team match of the Steiner brothers with the Headshrinkers.
Okay.
But it's not because of, this is Rick Steiner, this is Scott Steiner. This is primarily because of the work that the Headshrinkers do, in particular Fatu, who ends up being known as Rikishi.
Right.
Big fan of his work in this match and, what ends up being his career. Right now, he's only 28 in this WrestleMania.
Wow.
So he ends up going into, I think, he wrestles for WWE until like 2007, but it's like an off and on thing. But the fact that he's 28 here in 1993, and we're gonna see him later on for like another 20 plus years,
right?
And he like reinvents himself with this gimmick. Yeah, it's kind of a crappy gimmick, but it's pretty much what everyone knows him now. That's a little bit younger than us. So definitely, if you want to see Rikishi or Fatu, the father of Jimmy J, which is Jonathan and Joshua, their real names, and Solo Sokoa, which I did not get a chance to look up his real name. Please feel free and do so. Do yourself a favor and watch that match because I feel that there's a lot of good technical wrestling and storytelling that he does there. And the second match, now talking with Raymond here, as he was kind of my text co-host.
Thanks, Ray.
Thanks, Raymond, for filling in, and thanks you for letting us know that Solo's real name is Joseph. Mr. Perfect and the narcissist Lex, or the Lexorcist, as Mr. Perfect pointed out, primarily just because of the good work that Mr. Perfect does. Mr. Perfect is, second generation wrestler. His dad was in the business, and he's in the business. And I think at this point in time, as me and Ray were commenting here on the chat, is this is nearing the end of his original WWE and FE now E run.
Mhm.
And then he ends up going to WCW, where he really doesn't do much, but I think Raymond might have like an idea of why. And it's primarily like mostly everybody at that time was starting to go over to WCW. Some of the older guys that felt like they were not appreciated as much with Vince, not only like professionally, but also money wise.
Wow.
So
Sounds like current
so, I
day.
mean, if you're gonna get paid more money to go hang out with your friends,
Right.
you're not really gonna be into it as much because you're like, yeah, I'm here with my friends. I'm either drinking beers or I'm taking unprescribed medications or
Mm.
substances. Why the hell do I care about going out there and wrestling and
Right.
hurting myself? You
Mhm.
know. So that one is my second favorite match, and I think that's it.
Wow. So
Two matches, two favorite matches for me, and
4.
four for you.
Yes.
All right. At this time, we want to thank you for joining us and being patient with us as we had to handle a very um can't I can't really think of the word, but we had some issues where we had to take care of a tot who refused to go to sleep.
That's okay.
But hopefully you are able to join us. And or one last comment from our friend Raymond Rikishi Fatu named his sons with J names: Joshua, Jonathan, Joe, Jeremiah. Filipinos like to do that too. I wonder if it's an island thing.
Oh.
If it's not an island thing, it's probably easier to remember your guys' name because they all starts with the J or R's or however
Or
letter they
M's.
decide to. Yes.
I have a few in our family. We have Melinda, Mariah, Melissa, Melinda.
Hmm.
So the M&Ms. So we have a few in our family.
Yeah. So thank you very much for joining us. Hope you are able to join us for our WrestleMania 10.
Yes, please
That's the
do.
X edition. I'm not trying to do a DMX
I
impersonation.
am.
That is the WrestleMania 10 edition that we will be having with our actual uh, with Raymond, who's been actually kind of co-hosting here with the chat with me, but he'll actually be here in uh
In vivo.
in vivo live through video. Hope you are able to join us this Sunday, 4 p.m. Central, 2 p.m. Pacific, and 5 for you Eastern
As we
people.
celebrate WrestleMania 10. And
Yes.
that is our 10th episode.
Yeah, and if you have any
I
questions
may pop a
or
bottle.
yeah, maybe if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to do so. We are also streaming on YouTube Live.
See
Hit a
this?
like, hit the bell for on Facebook. Hit a like, recommendations on YouTube. Hit the bell for notifications so you know when we're going live. And also, I've been working on trying to reduce and only cut out our recommendation and favorite matches for previous episodes.
And
So
if you'd like to hear and see more of this wonderful, fantastic, super funny, kind of witty, maybe boring content, subscribe.
yeah, and I'll be uploading the audio version of this podcast. It should be available tomorrow on October the 5th. And we will be available on all audio podcast services: Google, Spotify, Spreaker, and Apple, of course, if I didn't say that. And you guys have a great night.
Deuces.